What is going on, Draft Degenerates? We are back with another interview. What's going on, people? Hope y'all are doing okay. We got my boy Toby over here. What's going on, Toby?
You're pointing in the wrong direction, but I'm great.
We got my boy
Yeah, there
Toby
you
over here.
are.
What's going on? Yeah, we're back in another interview. We're interviewing. I'm sorry, I can't talk right now. We're interviewing our boy MBoss, otherwise known as Mason, another semifinalist from UDL Season 4. What's going on, Mason? How you doing, dude?
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
Hanging in there, bro. Hanging in there.
Doing great. Not as good as you, Mr. Top 4.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, congrats on that. That's pretty sick. I know.
Thank you.
I know it's probably not as far as you would have liked to have gone. Obviously, everybody joins to win, you know.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure losing to the champion doesn't feel as bad, even though, you know, top 4 is a really good placement, especially since you had a bye going into playoffs. First seed in Yellow Division.
Yep, sure was.
Pretty sick. Let's just jump right into the questions. I have to talk to you about that because, you know, I feel like a pretty common theme this season for like the top performers is drafting a team and sticking with it. I saw you didn't make a single transaction the entire season.
Yep.
Can you kind of like walk me through why that is, or like maybe like your thoughts on like how the team performed as opposed to like maybe switching it up or something like that?
Yeah, so like basically going into the season, I felt pretty good about like most of the mons on the team. Like especially like the Kilowattrel, Donphan, Orthworm, Guardy core. Like I felt good about that. There was a few times where I did look into potentially switching up a mon. Cinderace I looked at once or twice. Zangoose I looked at once or twice. Besides that, like Samurott and Glaceon, originally I was like, I don't know exactly how these fit, but then weeks 1 and 2, they both like popped the fuck off. So wait, am I allowed to curse on here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Curse as much as you fucking want.
I just wanted to make sure. I was like, I don't know. Some stuff where they're like, don't curse. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Yeah, so like Glaceon and Samurott went crazy weeks 1 and 2. So I was like, okay, these like they're good mons, they're good value for tier 3. Both of them are like pretty solid for that tier. Cinderace, it was kind of like a weird fit on my team, but there was really nothing better that I could grab for it. A lot of it was just like I felt like the mons that I had, I didn't have mons that would do better at what I wanted. If you look at the tier list where it was at like the end of the season, and you look at like what I could have dropped Cinderace for, it was like, okay, you can get like a Spathra or like Glamora, Quaquaval. Like none of those were doing what I wanted. And like Cinderace did its job when I needed it to. So I just didn't feel the need to change it up really. Everything was doing what I wanted it to.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, if it works, it works, you know. And, you know, kind of looking at your team a little bit, we had some similarities, you know, the Kilowattrel and stuff like that, as well as Samurott. And I think a lot of what your team has just like works, especially in like a low tier format. You know what I mean? Because like you know, Donphan's speed tier isn't the greatest, but you have like one of the best tailwind setters, which is Kilowattrel, which would with Donphan. I mean, like to a T perfectly. And then you have like Orthworm, which, you know, Donphan next to Orthworm is just great. Like, it just makes sense. And then you have Misdreavus, which we actually just talked about with Depiz in our last interview. It's just a super slept on NFE, and I feel like a lot of people overlooked it. Can you kind of talk to me about your performance with Misdreavus if you used it at all this season?
Yeah, I forget how many times I used it. I'm on the dock. Let me pull it up because I definitely brought it a fair amount of times. Looking over it, it looks like I brought it pretty much like 75% of my matches. It didn't like go to every single one, but it definitely like was in the team builder for a lot of them. And I think it was pretty solid. It's not like crazy busted or anything, but you have like an 85 special attack, and that's like you're not counting on it to take big O codes because it's going to be Eviolite, but it can do 30-40% with Shadow Ball. It sticks around forever because damn, that thing is bulky with Eviolite, and you just like it actually has a crazy support move pool, not gonna lie, because it's like you got Wisp, you got Icy Wind, you got Trick Room, you got like I don't even know, there's so many things it can run. So it's just a good value pick that can do pretty much anything you want it to. Obviously it's not going to be your like first defensive option, but it sort of like fills a lot of gaps. It's a good Gloomon.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, like that's kind of like what we covered in the interview with Depis. You know, Mischievous was just super solid for Depis, and it was also solid for you. I saw a couple of games. But anyways, Toby, what you got for my boy MBoss over here?
I was just gonna comment too. I mean, it's a massively good support piece. Mischievous is. I mean, Kilowattrel is probably one of the best Tailwind setters you can get in a regular format. So to have it in a low tier format is really, really good. I can see why you wouldn't have made a trade throughout the entire season, because I mean, you replace one thing, then you have to replace multiple things to make something else work. And when it's working like this, I mean, when you're making it to the top 4, there's no real need. Obviously, it's working quite well. And I will comment that we're gonna rip the Band-Aid off early off in the interview, I guess. Rez and I were wrong. I'm just gonna say it. We'll say it multiple times. I will formally apologize. It is a top 4 team very clearly.
Yeah.
And nothing else to say about that. It is just it's a really solid team. I don't know how we ranked it in 8th place. I hope you find it in your heart to forgive me.
Eventually.
Okay. All right. We'll rank you number 1 next season, just no matter what it is. You can draft all NFEs, and we'll be like, it's perfect. It's a perfect team.
Yeah, that works.
Hey, I mean, I'm still gonna try to draft a fucking insane team.
Yeah,
you won't catch me drafting all NFEs.
Well, I respect it either way. I guess one question I want to know is, what's the biggest surprise to you on your comp? What turned out unintentionally like really good when it came week to week to week? What combos worked well that you weren't expecting them to? Like, what parts of this team just overperformed in terms of your expectations is what I'd like to know.
Yeah, I think big one for me is like Earthworm is a fucking dumb mon. Like, when that thing comes and like it has a good matchup, it's so dumb. It destroys everything. Samurai was a nice surprise. That thing, like, it's not, the craziest mon, but when it has good matchups, it goes crazy. I mean, I had a few weeks where it was like, all right, Samurai has 4 kills, 3 kills, like, great mon. I think another surprising thing for me is the amount of times, like, I actually brought Kilowattrel Donphan and clicked like Tailwind Earthquake is honestly not that many. Like, going into the season, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna click Earthquake every game, and like I just didn't. Part of that is probably just how it has to do with how I build teams in like Team Builder. But I think like just having the threat of that was nice. But yeah, it kind of surprised me as to how little I just brought that like raw combo of Earthquake plus thing that dodges Earthquake.
Yeah, fair enough. And you were talking about Samurai too, where I'm sorry, my cat was screeching. Yeah. I had to kick her out of the room. Okay, yeah, I can see that. I think Samurai. How many kills did Samurai get? I don't have the doc right in front of me.
Let me take a look.
Got more than I thought it was gonna get.
I mean, week 1 it was 4-0. Week 2 it was 3-2. So I at least had that. I don't actually know if I brought it to match beyond that.
Okay.
My week 8 didn't get put in, so I might have brought it then. I don't remember, honestly.
You brought it versus Rolo too, right?
Did I?
I think you did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I did. Yep. I brought it versus Rolo in playoffs, and it's pretty good there.
Yeah. Okay. It for sure did. Which is actually a perfect segue to my next question. Since you got a bye in playoffs, which is pretty massive, considering the playoff format or the playoff bracket is kind of built to be difficult every week, so the win is a little bit more rewarding, I feel, towards the end, just like naturally. Can you kind of walk me through your mindset going into playoffs with a bye?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really that different than how I would like normally look at a playoffs, just because of the fact that it was like there were so many people in it that getting a bye pretty much was like, okay, you're top 8. So it like kind of ended up just being like a normal playoff. I was kind of just like, okay, I get a week off. I get to just sort of sit back and I get more time to build. Like, I kind of like generally when stuff like this happens and I get like a bye in something, I'll look at both the teams I could be facing just to like get some preliminary ideas. because I am not the type of person who builds like 30 minutes before a match. I'll usually look at it like a few times over the course of the week. So just like to get those ideas started, I think was helpful for me. But besides that, I was kind of like, it's pretty much a normal playoffs. I still got to beat 3 people if I want to win. So it wasn't too much of a change for me, I don't think.
Follow-up question to that. What is your opinion on the playoff bracket? Because you went from having a bye to playing somebody in a completely different draft into playing somebody who was in the same draft but in a different division. So like, what were your first impressions on the new fresh playoff format?
Yeah, I think I liked it more than usual, just because like you get to, it's not just a lot of times in playoffs you get stuck playing someone you've already played. And it's like, okay, so now I have to prep for you again. I can't bring the same stuff because like you can see my pace. You played me already. You know what I'm going to bring. So like, you don't want to bring the same stuff. And sometimes there's not many routes you can take against a team. And it kind of just turns into like mind games in my opinion, where you're like, okay, I know my opponent brought this, so I could bring this to beat that. But I don't know if they'll bring that again. Like, that whole like back and forth where you just kind of have to guess where your opponent is in like that mindset. So I think having it where it's not necessarily against people you've played and it's people from other divisions, it's just nice because you don't have to worry about that whole mental back and forth. Also, you get to see some cool new teams, which I think is like, you go your whole season looking at one division, so getting to look through everybody else's teams and just play some new stuff is nice.
Yeah, I agree. I think the cross div is probably my favorite part of the playoff structure. Like, randomization is cool too, but I really liked, because I've never at least seen in our local form of leagues like a cross div playoffs, and I thought that was really cool. Just to have everybody come together at the end was just, it was a nice change, I guess. And it meant that like people who weren't in the same division that wanted to be in the same division as each other had like a goal to work towards, to like try to make playoffs and meet each other there so you could play each other. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I'm a fan of this playoffs bracket personally.
Yeah, I would agree.
But I guess combining both like playoffs and reg season as well, this was like UDL's most stacked season ever, I think, in terms of caliber of players. There was so many insane people in every division that we had. So I want to know if like throughout the season at all, from week 1 to your semis match, like were there any matchups that you went into that you felt were like particularly difficult for you, particularly easy for you, or is there any like matchup throughout the season that stands out to you for any reason?
Let me think for a second. I think probably for me, throughout the season, I usually don't like, I usually matchups are kind of like, there's some that are a little harder than others. I usually don't get too worked up about any. I think the hardest one for me was honestly prepping for Toxic in semis, because Toxic, like, okay, I was prepping for Toxic and obviously it didn't work out, but it was hard because every idea I had, he had like our teams weirdly countered each other, where he had a counter to pretty much everything I could bring, and I had a counter to pretty much everything he could bring. But like nothing on my team beat everything he could bring, and nothing on his team beat everything I could bring. Yeah. So it was kind of weird going in, because I had like some weird stuff. I had ally switch Gardevoir to like try to Earthquake Rotom, like just some weird stuff. And I think that's at the end of the day why I ended up losing that match, because I was focused on just beating his like normal stuff, and he brought some weird shit. Like, what the fuck is Perish Trap Honchkrow doing in a semis match?
That was like insane.
Yeah, what the hell is that? I don't know.
Yeah, like I just wasn't ready for what he brought. I was so focused on like trying to figure out how the hell I was going to counter everything that it just kind of probably was the hardest one I had to prep for all season.
I got you. Playing 3D chess with that one, kinda.
Literally.
Okay, yeah, I get you. Hunter, give him one while I'm scrolling through mine.
So I have a question, and it's kind of pertaining to your team a little bit. Is there anything that you either like played with, or like Pokemon, or like something you saw an opponent bring, or something in a different video that wasn't even like involving you that just like stood out to you and was like, wow, like this would not thrive in a normal format. Like this is so crazy. Why is this a thing? Besides the Perish Trap Honchkrow. Okay, I'm pretty sure we can all be in agreement. What the hell was that?
That was wild.
Listen. Is there anything that like sticks out to you like big time? Like maybe anything that was drawn to you that was like, oh wow, like this is
so my favorite set or like my favorite game of the whole season was week 6. I played against I'm not gonna mess up this coach. I played against Flame, and week 1 or game 1, Flame leads like Toxicroak Drifblim, and he goes what did he even do? He like Terra fighting. Or no, he flung an item at Drifblim to get policy, and then he set Trick Room, and then he Terra fighting and like swept my whole team. And I was like, what is happening? Like I was so not ready for it. And that was the first game I lost all season, was to Terra fighting, weakness policy, fling Drifblim, and I was just sitting there like, what the hell? Like I ended up winning the next 2 games because like I had the mons to deal with it, but that was by far the set where I was like, there's no way this works normally, but low tier, that'll do it. For me, the other one that I think was like a low tier, very low tier set was I brought Choice Spec Surf Samurott 1 week, and against, I think it was Raz, because he had like Hippo, Lycanroc, and like no water resist, and I was like, all right, we're clicking Surf, and it did all right, I think.
Yeah,
shit.
Sure.
Choice Spec Surf Samurai. I didn't even.
That's pretty sick.
Did I see that? I don't think I saw that pace, but that's awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean, it didn't do as much as I wanted to because he had Cacturn, and I was like afraid of Water Absorb, and it kind of put a dent in my plans, but that shit hits hard.
For sure. Can I ask you a question about Samurott? Because I also had Samurott, and I want to just kind of like talk to you about this for a second. So I find like, and I also had Kilowattrel too, which is so funny. And I use the duo of Kilowattrel Samurott a lot in prep, and I've come to find out like Samurott's speed tier is trash. Like it is atrocious. It's like base 70. Yep. Like you're not doing anything. I found myself like choicing it like way more often than not. Did you kind of find a similar like wavelength with that, or like did you try and spice it up a little bit more?
So I think I brought Samurott like 3 times, and I think actually I can go back in my builder and dig through that, but I know it was only choiced one of the times, and I think the other 2 times it had berries, which honestly is probably due to more about how I build than anything, just because I tend to build very defensively and mid ground, so like I usually, you will not see a lot of choice items in my building unless I like need it, so that's probably part of it. Also like matchups, I just didn't have the matchups for like Scarf Samurai to go crazy, I guess, but I think choice items do make a lot of sense on it, just because it is kind of like a mediocre damage output a lot of the time, unless you are really hitting stuff for super effective or you boost it or whatever. So I think, choice items make a lot of sense for it, just in general.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of circling back. Sorry, Toby. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go.
Sure. Kind of circling back to your team. Is there anything on your team that you drafted that you were disappointed in? Like, hey, I drafted this Pokemon thinking it was going to be goated, and then you're like, man, I used it. This mon sucks. I am never drafting it again. Maybe not like that hyperbolic, but like, is there anything that kind of disappointed you at all?
MBoss is like super mid.
Yeah.
That's my, like, okay, I always draft an Intimidator. Like almost every single one of my teams has had an Intimidate mon, so it was like cool, but as a tier 2, it just doesn't kill anything ever. It like, you have to invest so much into it for it to like do anything. Its coverage is like fine, but still super mid. Its speed tier is like 85, which is like not quite good enough, and its bulk is like just not there. I don't know. It's just not a good mon. Also, like Pure Dark is just not not it. If it was a tier lower, it would be totally fine. But at where it was at, I was just not a fan.
For sure. Note taken.
Fair enough. We'll keep that in mind when we re-tier for next season.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that we're probably gonna move just because DLC comes out and adds a bunch of different stuff. So that might be one of them. Nethermon, I have a question on, just because I'm super interested in the low tiers on people's teams. Did Skiploom and Zangoose ever see any play or any like use at all?
Okay, so I never brought Zangoose. I almost did a few times. I never brought it, which is like kind of whatever. There was no other good low tiers when I got there, so I was like, maybe it does something. It didn't. It's fine. Skiploom, I'm a Skiploom believer. I know like some people think it's absolutely garbage, but for your like lowest low tier, all right, you get Rage Powder, you get Tailwind, you get like Rain Dance, you get Pollen Puff, you get a whole bunch of shit. Sleep Powder, like you're not gonna bring it every week. I think I brought it like twice.
Okay.
But considering it's like a lowest low tier, it can do what you need it to when you really need redirection. It does it, especially because if you see a Skiploom, are you putting goggles on anything? The answer is fuck no. Like you are not wasting an item slot to prep for Skiploom, which I think is like really like it takes advantage of that because your opponent isn't going to prep for it. I mean, like they might be like, okay, there's a Skiploom, maybe it's redirection, but like you're not going like into a match like, all right, Skiploom's coming to this. So when you can like pull it out, it does its job. It redirects. With Eviolite, it lives like a hit or two. Usually all you need. I mean, most redirectors aren't living more than that. So you kind of, it does its job when you need it to. It'll win you a week or two. And that's, I mean, if that's what you get out of your lowest slow tier, I think that's fine.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. I can respect that. I'm not a Skiploom believer, but you bring up a fair point. I'm never putting goggles on something if my opponent is Skiploom. That's fair.
Yeah. The way I see it is like if your lowest low tier wins you a week, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Like because besides that, like what value are you getting out of that slot? Like,
right.
Like I don't care if I can bring fucking I don't know Crocalore, whatever the tiny Skeletor is. Like I don't care if I can bring that and click Snarl like 3 weeks and it does nothing. Like that doesn't give it value to me. If I can win a week with something, even if I only bring it that 1 week, like that works for me.
Fair enough. It has a purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you're looking for in a low tier.
100%.
Trying to think. Obviously we covered Misdreavus, but do you think there's like any other sleeper pick necessarily on your team that people might like in prep overlook? I guess we did talk about Skiploom, but any other ones other than that?
I think Glaceon was one that like people like, okay, its coverage is shit. Like, let's be real. And I think it's Ice Moves and Shadow Ball, and that's it. And like Terra Blast. But it has 130 base special attack, and that's like really all you need. You just click Freeze Dry and things die. I don't know how many resists Freeze Dry has. It's probably like it resists by like Steel and Fire. Yeah. So you just click Freeze Dry into everything and pray. And even if you're doing neutral damage, if you throw specs on it, it's gonna do like 50% to pretty much everything. If you don't specs it, it's actually like pretty bulky. I throw it I just need to look at its stats. It's like, yeah, it's 65, 110, 95, which is like
not bad. You
can do stuff with that. I threw Citrus Berry on it a few times and it lived for a while. Obviously speed tier isn't great, but again, pretty bulky, so kind of makes up for that. I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I can respect that. Glaceon would have been my pick too to say, because that's, like you said, 130 Spatak. I actually didn't even know Glaceon had 130 Spatak until like a few months ago when you drafted it, and I went, does that work for him? And then I looked at it and went, oh, yeah, that works.
Yeah. Yep. It clicks buttons and things die. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It is pretty sweet.
I definitely one-shot Mudsdale with it a few times.
Yeah, I seen that. Yeah, that was cool. I am personally a Glaceon believer. I love Glaceon. Kind of just like one of the last questions I got for you, because I don't want to like toot your horn for you or anything like that, but
Uh-huh.
you really didn't lose much. Like you lost 2 sets the whole season, and one of which was in semis versus Toxic, and the other one was
Yeah.
versus Yeet, right? Was it Yeet?
Let me see.
Pretty sure the only other loss in the regular season was Yeet because you went 7-1.
Yep,
right?
it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
You really didn't lose much, but and once again, I just want to say congrats again on the semis placement. That's really fucking sick, dude.
Thank you.
Is there anything like, and like I said before, you didn't really lose much, but is there anything that you like can take away that you learned like big time? Like any big thing that you learned from this UDL season? Is there anything you can take away from it?
Yeah. So if you followed my like drafts at all in the past, this team is very out of character for me. If you look at my draft in GLDL right now, there is like 0 to no synergy. Like, I mean, like not like no synergy, but like there's no earthquake next to tailwind type stuff. Like it's not built around that sort of thing because my teams always trend towards that, like bulky. I draft things with good stats and I make that work. And all that this season taught me is that that's what I should keep doing, because I think at the end of the day, the way I see it is like, I think it's what lost me semis is combos are really easily exploited if you're ready for them. Mons that work, and also they're a lot weaker if you can't bring the whole combo. So, for example, semis, I brought Orthworm. Orthworm was really good into Toxic. Donphan was shit. Donphan was not good into Toxic. If you can't bring Orthworm and Donphan, Orthworm is a whole lot worse of a Mon because you can't Earthquake next to it. So, like, just that sort of, like, just knowing that, I mean, it worked for the regular season, right? Because people don't put as much time into their prep. It's regular season. You kind of can just get away with throwing things in the builder and clicking buttons a lot of the time. Not all the time, obviously, but so combos, I think, work great for the regular season. But once you really get to playoffs and people are prepping with like 3 or 4 people, they're getting their whole squad together, doing all that, I think combos become just a lot worse, just because they're predictable. And when your whole team's built around combos, you just don't have you don't have that much room to improvise. So you kind of get, you're just stuck in that one thing. So that was just my takeaway, that I'm going to keep building teams the way that I build them, because like, obviously this worked, but it didn't work well enough. And yeah, that's just sort of what I got from it.
In response to what your points were here, I will say in your defense, it is kind of hard to just like draft things with really good stats in a low tier format, because like
obviously.
That's true.
Because like everything's gone. You know what I mean? There's no Iron Hand, there's no Fluttermane, none of that shit. Like it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to fulfill your kind of your style there.
In my defense, this team was also like, what I mean by that is like my stuff is usually, I very rarely skew towards like the super offensive or super defensive. A lot of my stuff is like mid-ground bulky. This team, I think less like just good stats. This team was a lot more frail than I usually draft. You would never see me taking Cinderace in a normal draft. Like I'm gonna just say it. That thing would never be on my team if this was not low tier. Like it's not my mon, So I think it's less the idea of like good stats and more the idea of just like mid-ground mons, I guess.
Makes sense to me, yeah. And I kind of agree with the synergy thing, because by the time, like you said, by the time you get to playoffs, it's either A, been shown off, or B, is the people who are in playoffs are very aware of what that team can do, because it's the best of the best, and they're reading into that team as hard as they can. So sometimes it probably is better just to have mons with really good stats just to hit the field and let their stats do the work instead of having the combos do the work. That's something I'm going to keep in mind, because that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean Discquake beats Little Timmy, but like Discquake doesn't beat people who know what it is, right?
Yeah.
You can beat Little Timmy and his team of Charizard and fucking like Torkoal, but you're not gonna be beating the like best of the best with that, because they'll be ready for it.
I respect that.
And I like to comment again on the kind of mindset of combos, and I'll just use your Kilowattrel Donphan one as an example. I'm not hating on it because it's fantastic, obviously, especially in a low tier format. But there's only a couple things you can do to stop certain support mons from stopping you, like Fake Out. Like, yeah, you can run Cover Cloak on this, but They could also run Scarf to outspeed your Kilowattrel, and then Okoa because you're not Sash. And there's so many mind games with that kind of stuff, and there's so many ways to stop. Kind of like those cookie cutter combos, kind of like what you said.
Yeah.
And like if you're a good player, you're gonna notice like, hey, there's something I can do about this. And it's really hard to make combos that look great on paper because dude, Kilowattrel, Donphan, Orthworm, like that's fucking phenomenal. Like anybody can see that that's phenomenal.
Awesome. Yeah.
But it's like in practice, if you have like the mindset where you can prep against you, or like if you have the confidence to prep against something like that, and you have sets that can work against it, it's really hard going into a matchup against a good player like Toxic, for example, where it's like he knows what you want to do because he just sees and he has Showdown open and he looks at stats and he's like, hey, I have a Tauros Aqua, which can intimidate your Donphan. Hey, I have a Rotom Heat, which like walls your Kilowattrel, and like you can't get hit by
my whole fucking team. I swear to God.
You know what I mean? Like it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to go into something like that because I feel like I'm talking in circles. But if you go against good players, kind of like I'm just echoing what you said. Like there's not much you can really do because then you have to go way outside the box. And I'll echo another point that you said. It's like, hey, I can bring 2 parts of this 3-part combo. I can bring Kilowattrel Donphan, but if I don't have Orthworm, like the combo isn't as good. Or like, hey, I could bring Donphan Orthworm, but guess what? Everything in the format's outspeeding me at this point. It's just like things like that where it's just so hard. And I actually really commend you for like realizing that because during this conversation, I've already learned so much from just talking to you about this kind of thing because it's like those are the things that people overlook. Because anybody can draft a Kilowattrel Donphan, but like if you can beat good players by disc-quaking, like I feel like that just says something because Lil Timmy will lose to Disc-Quake all the time, Quake Slide, you know what I mean? But like it's thinking outside the box with those combos against the grain that really makes you stand out. And I think you did that this season. I just want to say good job. That was really
thank you.
Yeah.
And kind of going off that, like even after the first few weeks of the season, I was like, I don't want to bring Disc-Quake into this because I feel like my opponent's got to be ready for it. I think I brought Choice Scarf Kilowattrel at one point because I was like this beats their Disc-Quake counter. Like I'm not going to bring Disc-Quake because they're going to be ready. So I'm like already before playoffs even start, I was like counter teaming what they can bring because it's once they know the combo, there's ways to play against it, which means that you have to keep adapting and eventually you can't out adapt them because you have to predict so far that they could just go back to 0 and you're like, all right, if they just bring the obvious, I lose. Right.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing is I think that like the whole combos thing is like the big difference between draft and VGC. Like if you think about VGC, Dozo Giri, right? Big, like that is the combo. That is the like if you told a draft player like you're playing Dozo Giri, they will have 30 different ways to beat it in like 2 seconds. Like what you're gonna do because they don't have like other routes they can take. Sure, you can have solo Dundozo, you could bring Tatsugiri with fucking choice specs, but like is that as scary? Not at all. Like so it's just that whole sort of mindset of like in VGC combos were great because you have to go into a tournament and be like, okay, if I just beat Dozo Giri, like I'm losing to everything else. But you have to build a team that has chances against everything. And in draft, it's like, all right, I have to beat these 11 Mons. Honestly, probably not 11. Realistically, you're looking at like 8, right? You have to beat some combination of like 8 Mons with your 8 Mons. Like that's what you're really looking at the end of the day. So I think stuff that becomes easy to prep for is just not as good in draft because you can just focus it down.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
No, I agree with that. And I'm gaining a lot out of this conversation right now because that's stuff I really honestly have not even thought of a whole bunch. So it's good to have a conversation like that. That's a little bit of a wake-up call. Maybe it's a wake-up call for people out there who are watching right now. And maybe little Timmy's like, oh, Disc-Quake is the best combo known to man. And it's like, little Timmy, it's not.
Right.
No, it's not.
Little Timmy, don't draft tier 1 Dozo Giri. Trust me. It's not going to go well.
Oh, shit. MBoss, I have one more question for you.
Yeah,
and
hit me.
It is, when can your adoring fans expect to see you in another draft league? Because I know you're pretty selective about your draft leagues.
Yeah, well, I'm not selective. It's more that I just like, I was like a college student, so I don't have that much time. But I'm in GLDL right now. Currently 4-0, and Iron Hands is 19-1 KD. So
Iron Hands,
tune into that shit, dude.
It's so good.
Okay, I ran belly drum Iron Hands last week. Oh my god. Like, Hunter, I don't know if you I was talking to Toby about this earlier. I don't know if you saw that match, but it lived it took, so it was Terra flying hands after belly drum, so it's at like 70%. It took a +2 Terra rock slide from 252 adamant go-go. Took 60%.
You drain punched it?
I drain punched it and it died. I was like, and then I one-hit KO'd at Ting Lu. I was like, all right, this mon is insane.
This is great.
So yeah, GLDL, I'm in. Tune into that. Hopefully going far. And then I'm in PDCL right now. That one is less good. Spoiler alert: Ting Lu is exceedingly mid. That might be a hot take, but you know,
I'm coming
fight me.
Find that also because I lost
yeah.
it twice at Milwaukee, and then I drafted like, oh, I want to try it. It's there, and then I had to bring like Choice Band versus Dan to do any damage.
Yeah.
And,
yeah,
like, you know
when your opponent knows it's coming and can just like intimidate or wisp, and also you have like 3 moves that you can realistically run at any given time.
Right.
Yeah, it's not great.
Hey, one of them is Fisher. I'm just saying, hit your Fishers and then you'll win.
No, dude, if you catch me bringing Fissure to a draft league match, like just throw me off the nearest bridge.
It's done.
Get out.
I'm coming around on the Ting Lu hate a little bit too. I'm starting to see it's not what we thought it was when it first came out.
Yeah, I mean it's good in VGC, but again, draft's a whole different thing.
It's a different animal.
But yeah, I'm in GLDL, I'm in PDCL. I will hopefully be back for next season of UDL. I generally I mostly have just been rotating between those, especially, you know, college starts here in a month, and you know, I'm an engineer, so I don't have that much free time. So, you know, I'll probably just be sticking to those 3, but I'll be in them for as long as I can. You know, I'll be back every season.
Sweet.
Hell yeah, that's what we love to hear.
Yeah.
Then, I think I'm out of questions unless you got another one, Hunter.
Yeah, is your family tall or some shit? Like, how are you?
Okay. Yeah, my dad is 6'3". My brother is like half an inch shorter than me, and then I'm 6'4.5". And then like my sister's pretty tall too. So, yeah.
Dude, it's so funny because like before I actually got to meet MBoss in person at Milwaukee, like I was talking shit like, dude, I'm taller than you. I'm like 6'2". Like, dude, I'm taller than you. I walk up to MBoss and I'm like, oh my god, dude, what the?
It's my distinguishing characteristic for sure, bro.
For sure. It just sucks that you're playing TCG and you weren't playing the actual game. But
oh, fight me, bro.
Hey, TCG is pretty legit.
TCG is pretty. It's in a weird spot, but it's legit.
Oh, it's so strange, dude. Next year at Milwaukee, you might catch me playing VGC. I'm gonna see which format I'm gonna see which format I'm liking better at the time, and we'll go according to that.
Fair.
So that, although if I play VGC, that would require me like playing Scarlet and Violet to get Mons, and that might be a deal breaker, but we'll see how it goes.
It might suck. I will say there is a way to get EV'd Mons via raids now, or like Mons with EV, like good IVs and natures and stuff via like a raid bot now. So that might make it a lot easier. But
yeah, I've also never done a VGC event, so you know, playing VGC might not go well, but who knows?
It doesn't go well your first time unless you're Justin Tang. So I mean, you know.
That's true. What is up with that?
That guy's insane.
He's cracked, dude.
What is with that guy?
Cracked.
All right. MBoss, where can the good people find you? Any links you want to share? I
mean, I'm on Discord. I have a Twitter. I don't even know what my @ is. I don't post anything interesting, so like follow me at MBoss_11 if you want basketball takes and occasionally Pokemon tournament results. That's Hunter knows all about the Jaylen Brown hate train.
Oh yeah, yes sir.
Basketball and Pokemon is all that's on there. I mean, I don't have a YouTube, I don't have a Twitch, I don't have a capture card, so like, you know, that's what happens. But I have a Discord and I have a Twitter, so you know, find me if you'd like.
I will link your Twitter in the description in case anybody wants basketball and tournament takes.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, then I think that'll do it for us here, folks. I want to say thank you, MBoss, for coming on. Congratulations again for top 4. That is no easy
Thank you.
at all. And I'm wishing you luck with the rest of your other seasons as well. It sounds like GLDL is going phenomenally, and hopefully it continues going phenomenally.
Hopefully.
Well, your cat is going
she is bugging out back there. I want to say thank you, Mason, for coming on. And
yeah, of course.
Thank you all for watching. If you're watching this video, you are a Draft Degenerate. But if you're not subscribed, I'd like to know why the hell you're not. That feels really weird to me that you've made it all the way to the end of this video and haven't gone, hey, these guys are really cool, funny. MBoss is a really insightful man with a lot of smarts and a lot of down-to-earth advice to give on the game. I should give a follow so next time he's on, he can give me more advice. And, and you know, like, if you're upset that Raz is gone, he'll be back. Like, that's no reason not to subscribe. Why aren't you subscribed?
Right.
Why, like...
I'm just like watching your cat in the background.
I know, she's bugging out. I'm like trying to do my rant, and I keep looking at in the fucking camera, and I'm like, I can't even do the rant because she's bugging out. I don't know what's going on.
He's just sitting there and nodding. He's just, yep. Yeah.
But anyway, hit the fucking subscribe button. If you're not going to do it for me, do it for Raz. Or do it for Hunter. Look at this handsome motherfucker filling in for Raz right here. Like, where would I be without him? I'd be doing solo interviews, and then the awkward silences would be longer and more awkward, and then, like, nobody would watch it. So you're watching it because of Hunter. There you go.
I appreciate
it. At least if there's an awkward silence, now you can do the crickets.
True.
Yes.
Exactly. Perfect. I knew we were gonna get a sound. I knew it. I knew we were gonna get a soundboard in here.
I had to do it.
I knew it. Okay, perfect. Well, if you're watching this video, you are a Draft Degenerate, and we will see you all in the next one. Peace out.
Peace.